Welcome back to another episode. This is Layla, and today we are discussing manifestation, but not just any regular manifestation, the trauma-based one, and why it attracts opposites. So, I feel like a lot of people teach about manifestation, but they forget to teach about this very important step on how to remove trauma and making sure that we stop attracting the opposite. Because here's what happens when we start to use any sort of manifestation technique, whatever we feel called to do, whatever feels good. What happens is that we start to expand our consciousness, right? And when we expand our consciousness, if we've had any form of trauma, especially during childhood, what's going to happen is that the old stories, so these old beliefs, are going to start showing up. So that's why a lot of times when we start to manifest, if we have trauma and we don't know how to remove it, we don't know how to alchemize it, what happens is that we start to attract catastrophes or just, tower moments. Things are just going the opposite way. Or, we want to manifest a specific person and that person just ghosts us, like just literally the opposite of what we want. And it's even more traumatic, right? It's really re-traumatizing because you're reliving your childhood trauma over and over again. But that's the challenge here. The challenge, because you're expanding your consciousness, you're going to have all these old stories playing out. The challenge here is to not get triggered. If we do get triggered, because we're human, right? We sometimes forget that we're the operant power of our reality. And so what happens is that we have to regulate our nervous system and we have to, as much as possible, not interact with the 3D circumstances. All right. So there are many different ways to regulate the nervous system. I love somatic exercises. For some people, like, you have to try a few different techniques, because I can be like, this is the technique. For some people, it can be, to take a walk. Or for others, it could be to, go to the gym. In general, we want to be gentle with our body, so we might not want to do nothing extreme. So a walk, like a gentle workout, stretching, slow, deep breathing as well. Not the quick one, not the Kundalini one, because that's going to amplify the trauma. So we don't want to do that. We want to just relax. We want to get to this calm, present, still state. And it requires practice. This is rarely something that people just figure it out like right away, especially if you have a lot of trauma, like you've had a life of struggle or you've had a lot of struggles. You're going to practice that. Basically, it's a lifestyle. Obviously, you're going to get to a point where you don't get triggered as much, or the things that used to trigger you are not going to trigger you anymore. And you're going to be able to manifest very quickly the things that you actually want without all the, I would say, the symptoms, the negative symptoms of it. So, but still, like at the beginning, while you're practicing that, you're gonna have to make sure that you do not get triggered. If you feel triggered, you have to rise above your emotions. You cannot start yelling or start interacting. Like, let's say, you're trying to manifest a specific person and that person just, ghost you, right? They had plans with you and they just stopped answering. And that might trigger an abandonment wound, right, from your childhood. And it's not going to feel good. It's going to be uncomfortable. But right away, you want to acknowledge what's happening. So that's the second phase of healing, right? It's acceptance. It's shadow work. But you have to acknowledge that it is triggering right now, or it doesn't make you feel good. And you have to stay in your mind. You have to like observe yourself basically and be like, and it's not, we don't want to repress the emotions. The emotions are there to give you an indication that, hey, like, let's look at that wound because it's not healed yet, you know? But of course, it's not going to feel good right away. But acknowledging it is a huge, huge part of it. When you acknowledge it, it becomes smaller. And the worst thing you can possibly do is to, you know, send like a paragraph to that person who ghosted you, because then you're acknowledging that they're ghosting you. And, you know, the best thing to do is to completely ignore what's happening. And there you have two choices. You can either decide that, you know, maybe it turned you off, right? That this person did that to you. So you may decide that, well, that person does not exist anymore in my timeline, so good riddance. Or you can decide whatever feels good, okay? So if you decide, you know what, I want to be on a timeline where that person did not ghost me. So maybe something happened, you know, who knows? But yeah, I'm in a timeline where they always text me back, they always call me, they always message me. So we can basically choose and pick and decide whatever feels good. But the first thing we want to do is, like I said, acknowledge the wound, and really put the focus back on ourselves, put the focus back on our energy. So for example, because usually an abandonment wound is self-abandonment. So the first thing you want to do is actually take care of yourself, whether it's, you know, it's making yourself a home cooked meal, or, you know, you want to, as a woman, like you want to put on some makeup and just, you know, make yourself look pretty. So it could be physical, mental, emotional, whatever you want to do. And if it still doesn't feel good yet, because that's, you know, especially with those like deep traumatizing wounds from childhood, if that doesn't work, you might want to try alchemy. So what you want to do is you want to acknowledge that you are creating this illusion right now. So just by saying it out loud, again, it's going to make those issues and emotions feel smaller. And of course, you're going to have to practice if it doesn't feel good right away. But by saying, I created this illusion, and you can add, I'm not afraid of the darkness because I am divine darkness of creation. And now I claim my power now from whatever, all time, space, and dimensions, if you want to like be all extra. But you get the concept, right? And the more you're going to say that, the more you're going to acknowledge that you're the one creating all those different stories. You're the one creating all those 3D circumstances. And then once you've done that, you just want to go to the next step, which is transcendence. You want to transcend the reality, and you actually want to put your focus back on what you want. You might want to use some robotic affirmations, or you might want to listen to a transcendental meditation, anything that's going to make you feel calm and feel good, because that's the goal. That's always the end goal. And so, yeah, a lot of times when people teach about manifestation, they just teach about that last part, right? They're like, well, you know, say those affirmations, listen to these subliminals at night, or, you know, do this and that, do this journaling, but they don't talk about the side effects that might happen. They don't necessarily always happen, but they might happen, especially if we're trying to manifest something new. Then, of course, there's going to be a lot of unpacking, because, you know, think about it this way, you know, to have all those beliefs, it took a lot of years, right? A lot of years of reinforcing those beliefs. So if you used to struggle, or your parents used to struggle, and then you started struggling as well, you know, as a young adult, right? Those are a lot of years. Let's say it's like 20 years. Those are 20 years of practice. Like, you've been practicing struggle for 20 plus years. And I'm saying, like, obviously it's not going to take 20 years to, you know, unlearn all of these. The good thing about working with the subconscious mind and working with the soul is that, and love and authenticity, however you want to call it, the goddess energy, you transcend time and space. This is why it's so powerful and it's so quick as well. But this episode is really a reminder to be aware that when you have trauma, you might manifest your trauma in your 3D prior to having the things that you want to clear them out. So unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about this and they just think, oh, manifestation doesn't work for me, blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, when you're using words, you are casting spells. So basically, if you're saying that manifestation doesn't work for you, even as a joke, that's why we shouldn't even joke about ourselves like that. Because your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a joke or not, And so when you're making these jokes, you're basically casting a spell on yourself. And instead, when you're manifesting something and the opposite happens, first of all, you want to keep it quiet. You want to keep it to yourself so you don't have people from your 3D reality, confirming these like old beliefs, right? Because usually, especially if you've known them for a while, it means that they resonate to the frequency of your past. So they might even try to like pull you back, because that's what happens, energetically. If you have someone that's vibrating, higher, at first there might be some lower frequencies that are like, no, you're staying here. Or it might even be their own ego, their own conscious mind that's like, hey, that's the unknown, Even if you struggled your whole life and you have opportunities, to not struggle anymore, your ego might try to like pull you back into struggling because that's its comfort zone. That's all you've known, right? So the best thing to do basically when you deal with your ego like that is to basically treat it as your inner child, to talk to it like your inner child. Like, you don't want to yell at yourself, like you don't want to like insult yourself. You just want to explain in a very simple way. You say, okay, well, I appreciate you trying to protect me, but these are old beliefs and they used to serve me at some point, but now they don't serve me anymore. We have new beliefs now. So here are the new beliefs, right? And that's it. And then you practice. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next episode.